And we're live.
Yeah,
Jackson, thanks for coming on the podcast.
yeah, thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you coming on. We are both two dog dads,
Mhm.
not cats, but obviously we cover the pet space. We love cats. I personally love cats. I have a lot of friends with cats, but I've just never had one. Love to learn more about the space, about you, about the company, your story. We'll dive into all that. But yeah, would love maybe a little bit of a intro.
Sure, yeah. So I have been like, an animal person growing up, had lots of pets, different kinds of pets, love basically all animals. Grew up with dogs and cats, um, like lots of friends. And I got into e-com like way early, like in university, kind of learning how to build my first websites in the early 2000s. Old school like digital marketing, SEO, like back in the day, super early, Google ads, which felt like kind of the Wild West back then, um, when you could like start a business. The hardest part was making the website, and then the marketing felt like the easiest part, and now it's kind of flipped.
Yeah.
And yeah, started a few random e-com businesses. Um, like I had a masquerade mask site was my first website where we would import masks from Italy and sell them in the US. And then started a suspenders site, so like these really niche sites where suspenders was like the next evolution, where it was like we were actually designing and manufacturing versus just buying and reselling. And then kind of was trying to help my girlfriend at the time start a business so she could get out of like her regular 9 to 5 and we could travel and stuff. And I'm like, what are you interested in? And I remember pulling up the keyword tool, which was like a really good way to find ideas back in the day, like find what people are searching for. And so just asked her, like, yeah, what are you interested in? She's like, fashion. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of hard and vague. Like, what else? She's like, cats. And then I started looking up cat stuff and saw all these searches around like modern cat furniture, modern cat treat, beautiful litter box. And I'm like, oh, there's actually a lot of like people searching for specific stuff here. And so started that as like, hey, maybe it'll make a little bit of money each month and that would be awesome. And then it just like had immediate like momentum from when I first started it. I was like, holy, this is like better than any of the other businesses. And it's slowly grown, like evolved over the years. And then she is now more of a advisor. She's not as into the like, it's not, it's a business about cats, but really it's a product development. Marketing is like the day-to-day stuff. So yeah, that's the background. And like she's an obsessed cat person. And then, we rescued our own cat since then. So it kind of just like merged a lot of things. And I think the trend is that like a lot of me and my friends, we grew up with family dogs, family cats that are kind of in the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're around. But now I think with people like moving into smaller spaces, they're really like more of a like roommate. Like our cat, or like when people have a cat or a dog, it's like family member, they're around, they're in the room all the time. People are living in condos and stuff. And so for me at least, it's like way more uh of like a different relationship than when I was growing up, and there was just kind of like the dog that my dad took for a walk, and he was around and we loved him, but it wasn't like I knew every one of his quirks or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think this is why the podcast is so great because it allows us to dive deeper into this because I think when people hear like a story like that, it's like, oh, he had this idea, he did a little
Hmm.
bit of research, boom, next day there's a thriving business and it, started as a side hustle, became a thriving business. But the reality is like this was months and months. This was, if I'm not mistaken, 18 months of developing the product, testing 50 different litter formulations, hiring a feline scientist, which I was not aware that that was a thing. But it's the whole thing was a long process. So like, can you take us through that like stage one where you realize there's a problem, and then it's like, how do I fix the problem? How long does it take to fix the problem? And then when you started out, is it that naivete that kept you going? Like if you would have known in advance this is going to take me like 2 years to figure out, do you even think you would have approached it at the time?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, like, yeah, so I think one of the big things that's changed with me over time is just like a horizon to expect things now. Like when I started, it was like, okay, can we start a site, get product, start selling it, make our first sale in like a month? And now I've kind of realized that it's more of an edge if you think longer term, because a lot of people are thinking really short term, and a lot of the like hard things take more time. So you actually like if you have a longer horizon, you're sort of competing on a different level. Then you eliminate a lot of the competition who's just like looking for that quick product. A lot of times when I talk to entrepreneurs who are just starting, they're like, okay, what's the easiest way to find a product? Like, how can I get a product, find something that I can sell from China that's popular and then start selling right away? And I'm like, you're kind of building like a sandcastle there
Yeah.
where you're going to put so much work into the marketing side. That's really hard and expensive. And you're kind of building it on this foundation of just like a generic product that anybody could find or sell. So I think that was like different back in the day. Like maybe when I said the hardest part was making the website, that was like, okay, if you had technical chops to do that kind of thing and like be a really good Facebook marketer, just find a product and basically leverage your skills as a Facebook ads person. But now that stuff is like really commoditized. And so the edge is in like longer term product development, which is kind of refreshing because it's like there's no magic or secret. It's just like hard, persistent work over time. And then the ads and marketing and website, that stuff's all kind of hmm, like I don't want to say easy, but it's like there's no secrets. It's like you just kind of follow a standard playbook. But if you have a better product, you are you're not competing suddenly. You're not trying to outmarket other people. So so yeah, I probably wouldn't have approached it like, and that's what I tell people now is I'm like, when they're thinking about a business idea, I'm like, if I told you you were going to be doing this 5 or 10 years from now, would you still do this idea? And almost everybody's like, no, like I'm just looking for like in a year I want to be profiting. And I'm like, no, you're going to lose money. You're going to like lose a bit of your savings in the first year. You're not going to take any money out for 2 years. I started the mask company in like 2010, and I'm still like kind of working on it randomly in the side. If so, it's like, do you want to do this for the long term? So you should pick something that's like, I would be stoked to still do this, like if I was doing it 5 years from now. So I guess that's good that I was naive and like approached it at the time. But yeah, with Tuft Paw, it's like I think I started the website off the side while I was working as an ecom director at another company. I was kind of like in on the weekends. I started this Shopify site and just looked for random nice stuff around the world that I could sell. Like from like there's a lot of like um cool like shops in like Korea and Japan that make these really cool like cat things that are hard to get in the US. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll start with that and doing some SEO stuff. And it was just kind of like going on in the background. And then it probably took like a year before I started actually getting like sales from organic people like searching. I wasn't like doing any ads or anything. And at that point, I'm like, okay, it's one order a week. That's like whatever. Like, okay, refund the customer. We actually can't get this. Uh, and then it was like, maybe one order a day. And I'm like, okay, we actually could order like 20 of these things and expect to sell through them. And so that was kind of like the natural next step. And then it was kind of like seeing a bit more of a shift where I'm like, whoa, the volumes are increasing, but I don't love being like reliant on these other suppliers and not having our own product. And so that's where we started. So it was like 2016, build the basic website. I think 2018 is like when I started. So I was doing other stuff. This was just in the background, but 2018 is like when I started working with contract designers. And I'm like, hey, I think a litter box would be the most obvious thing, like just a sleek litter box.
Yeah.
And I was like, I also knew all these other products that would do well based on what people were already buying from the other vendors. So I was like, maybe a couple cat trees, like, there's like 10 products that I'd love to make. And I was like, I'd love to get them in like 3 months. And then now I realize I'm like, you couldn't make the most simple thing in like a year, basically. So now when we talk about a new product, like we're looking at like more complex stuff, but it's like the idea is like 2 years or 3 years. If we're like looking at
Wow.
making like a smart cat feeder, it's like that's going to take 3 years to do something like that. Um, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like it's just like same as like if you want to get really jacked, a lot of newbies will be like, yeah, I have 1 month before summer, I'm gonna get jacked. But then like
Yeah.
the veterans are like, no, like I'm gonna try to gain like 3 pounds of muscle like a year and like slowly do it. So yeah, that's kind of the overall journey. So uh we have shifted more to like cat litter as being our best product, moving away from like wooden plastic sort of furniture items. Now it's like consumables, food and litter and smart products. Like we have some really cool stuff coming out now that's way more complex and sophisticated. That's like, health insights, just like a connected home with your cat.
Yeah. Wow, that's like it's so interesting. So basically, when you first set up the site, it was kind of like this honeypot for like some of the keywords you found. And then
Yeah.
you started getting some traction and you're like, wait, actually don't have this inventory. I can't sell this as a one-off. So refund. And then once you started seeing demand for certain products, then you started actually purchasing those. And were you like drop shipping that, or were you like, did you already have
Yeah.
like a little storage, or are you just ordering it to your house and shipping it by hand? Or
Yeah. So it's not like I feel like the value I was adding was kind of like making it easier to get and a little bit easier, like better experience for the customer than if they were to order it directly from like Japan. So it's like kind of like drop shipping, but you just we were setting up a 3PL, so third party logistics, and that's essentially the same thing. Like you're never touching it. It's easier. You just order like 20 units to the 3PL, they store it, and then it automatically gets shipped out to the customer. So that's like, I think, an easier way than drop shipping because you don't need to like deal with all these individual uh, factory, like
yeah,
doing
it's like
different
most people
things.
have moved to 3PLs at this point if you don't have your own massive warehouse and,
Yeah, I don't know, like
operations.
a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to own their own warehouse. So 3PL is actually a really great way for like small companies and even us now. Like we still use 3PLs. They're just like more efficient at what they do. And then there's also a lot of like vendors that will immediately write you off if you're like, I'm looking for drop shipping. So to get like good quality stuff, you need to kind of like sell the supplier on being like, hey, we're gonna order like a container worth of stuff. Um, yeah, and you just have to feel like, okay, mix and match, which with a bunch of different SKUs, so you get
Yeah.
5 of everything. But we had a pretty good idea when we started manufacturing our own products. I'm like, okay, here are our 3 best sellers. What do we want to make? Like a litter box, maybe like a fancy cat tower, and a scratching post, a simple scratching post. Um, so yeah, like none of the stages actually felt that risky at the time. It was like, okay, start a website and just honeypot, like you said, like see what comes in. That might be harder to do these days with like organic is so hard, but back in the day you could like try to rank for like wooden cat scratcher
Yeah.
and it wasn't that hard. And now I don't know, like I used to be really against ads in the early days, and now I just don't know like what you would do if you weren't running ads. Like maybe TikTok organic would be like the other thing.
Yeah, it's like the pixel count, like how many
Yeah.
pixels you are as a first organic search result now is
Yeah.
just like 40% lower than it was like historically, because there's just like a sponsored carousel, then there's like a couple
Yeah.
sponsored links,
Yeah.
and stuff. So
Pre-answered
that's made
questions.
it really
Yeah. Like
tough. Yeah.
it's kind of sad. Like back in the day, I remember feeling like there was so much opportunity early, like to be scrappy and like try to do some of this stuff. And yeah, it just feels like now it's like much more pay to play. And like I said, it's
Yeah.
maybe better because you just are focused on like good product, good fundamentals of a business, and then the marketing kind of falls into place versus before it was like anything you can sell and just
Yeah.
like try to hack your way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's why those like affiliate niche sites were just absolutely crushing it. People were making
Yeah,
insane money because it was just this amazing funnel of traffic of like, I have the most optimized page for this like buyer's
yeah,
intent. And
yeah,
I mean, I have the best product, but I know exactly all the questions and answers that Google and this user are looking for. So,
yeah. It
um,
sounds like TikTok Shop is kind of like having something like that, where I'm hearing a lot of people who are like, yeah, I just know the formula for like viral shorts, and I'll
yeah,
attach a product to that. It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah.
But
We'll
I
have to
guess,
come back to it at some point, but we want to, there'd be it kind of like segues into like what, especially we talked to Doer who has Gaines Family Farmstead. He's like single
Mhm.
ingredient treats. He's all in on live selling on
Mm,
whatnot, and like eventually going to do TikTok shop. Like he's got like one of his
Yeah,
favorite
he's
metrics is
killing
like
it.
revenue per minute is like what he
yeah,
counts now. Like it's
crazy.
insane. Like you should, if you want, you should go look him up and like what he's doing
Yeah.
and stuff in that segment. But what I'd be curious, lasting on this like kind of start to where you are now. So 2016, you start the site. Like, what are some of the keywords and things that you were basically trying to get traffic for then and potentially service products versus like what are you now seeing as some of the bigger, since we've like moved into like,
Mhm.
you know, people cared about health or like smart tools, you know, things of that nature. What's kind of been that arc or that change from then to
Yeah.
now?
So before, I guess it's like kind of a matter of what you um think you can like achieve at that time. So for me, it was like I could understand how to make a wooden scratching post. Like if I wanted to, I could hire a local like carpenter to help me make 10 units and we could sell those. Or I could make one here locally, ship it to China and be like, "Hey, I want you guys to make a version of this that we can manufacture." Like I could wrap my head around what that looks like. Plus I saw all the like different keywords that people were searching for. So it was like tall scratching post, uh, like large cat sturdy scratching post, open top litter box, like all these kind of like long tail searches. And my background really is in like SEO. So like back in the day. And so I was kind of like, okay, I can like rank for all of these different things. Now I would totally like avoid that as a strategy because I just don't think the marketplaces have sort of sucked all that up. So if people want kind of something, they don't care about the brand, they're just going to like look on Amazon for the highest reviews. So that has totally changed over 10 years. Um, so that the opportunity in conjunction with what I've realized is like it's just as hard or it takes just as long to make like a simple niche product as it does to make like a mass market product. Or maybe it's like a bit, it takes a bit more time, like a little bit more time, like 20% more time to come up with like a mass product, a mass market product. So I thought it would be easier to have less competition to make a really niche, like tall, fancy, luxury scratching post. But what I realized is that still takes like 18 months. There's just like a lot of hurry up and wait with the manufacturer versus like cat litter. It's a little bit harder because you're doing like more sciency like stuff on the formulas and you're doing more original stuff. But like if you do well at it, the market is just like 100 times bigger, and it the effort to make that product isn't 100 times more. So like now at Tuft Paw, we basically say like, okay, it has to be consumable. So there's like recurring purchases. And that's been a game changer for our business is like, instead of trying to sell 100 litter boxes one month, then 150 the next month, then 200. It's like, we just have to get 100 new subscribers every month. And it just like builds and builds and builds. So it has to be either a consumable, it has to be like a mass market product. Like we think every cat person could own it. So that's like maybe
Hmm.
our cat carrier. We're like, hey, everybody needs a cat carrier, like that's affordable and like looks nice. Or maybe like we have one cat bed or like one scratching post that we have to be like, I could legitimately sell this to every person who has a cat. Or it's like smart tech, which is we don't have any of those products listed yet, but they're coming. And those are like just where we see strategically like having more data on cats. So like with cats, if your cat has a health issue and you go to the vet will ask like, are they still using the litter box? Are they drinking enough water? And has their weight changed over time? Like those are the three things. And so with Smart, you can like basically get, and with all the AI stuff that's happening, like if you have like 100,000 cats, data on cats and like health attached to that, you can do some really cool stuff. And that data doesn't exist right now. So like having that data would allow you to do so much. So we're making like a big long-term bet on that. But obviously like a smart litter box with predictive health insights is more complicated than a wooden scratching post. But it's not like 1,000 times harder. It's like maybe like 5 times or 10 times harder, but it has like 1,000 times the potential for like sales. So it has to be
Yeah.
in one of those categories: consumable, smart, or like mass available. That's kind of been like the product arc for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it is kind of like, it's interesting that, you know, dog has been the biggest market share. Cat had its breakout year last year, and I'm sure we'll see the same this year in terms of like how many people have become cat owners.
Mm-hmm.
And but we see like a lot of that innovation, right? That starts in dog and trickles down to cat, like especially with the food.
Yeah.
That's probably been your biggest platform of innovation and like biggest marketplace, biggest TAM and dog. And now a lot of that has kind of come for cat as well. Same with supplements, treats, things of that nature. And then like what's interesting with the wearables is like, I agree with you. I think like we talked to, you know, I think we've mentioned a few times on our podcast, talking to Michael from Tractive. He's like, basically we're a data company at this point, you know, where
Yeah.
they just have tons and tons and tons of data on these dogs, and you could see normalized data for like, I think he used an example like, I have a beagle and we have like 2,000 other beagles, and here's like their normal resting heart rate, here's all of this stuff, here's like, you know, all of this information that helps you kind of like see where you fall in line with your pet, and then you can make really informed decisions there, be like, oh, maybe I should look at, like, he's not getting as many steps, he's kind of slowing down for his age, like maybe I should look at a joint supplement, like how can
Yeah.
I can track before and after with that. The interesting thing with cats, they don't really wear anything, right? Because most cats are indoor cats, so you're not wearing a leash, so it is like you have this one centralized location where you're probably having to synthesize, you know, all of their bowel movements, you know,
Yeah.
their pee, their like what they're doing in there, the moisture level, like, so I feel like it's probably way more complicated on the cat front. But if you get that data, that's super, super valuable. And that then informs all of your consumables, right? Like things that you could
Yeah.
start getting further insight and intel on, which is cool.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine building a smart product for a cat.
It's
That's so much
hard.
consideration.
Honestly, I didn't know like it's like you said, you didn't know a feline scientist like existed. I'm like, all of these product specialists, it's like there's somebody who's like just an expert on like, the hardest thing is like, you can find people who are good at physical products and you can find people who are good at software, like software developers, but finding people who are like good at like bridging the two was such a hard role for us to find. It's like, and that was one thing I was surprised that I'm like, wow, there are experts who like just know about like the chips that are good at like tracking data, and they understand how software, like how to store that data properly, but also how the device works. So it is, yeah, it is super complicated. And like you said with cat, there's some companies with collars with cats, but they have like a lot of fur. So it's really hard sometimes to get like accurate stuff from that. And then with the feeders, it's tricky because uh yeah, like if you're serving wet food, like you don't want it to go bad. So if a cat doesn't eat all of it, there needs to be a way to like get rid of that
Yeah.
old food. So yeah, there's a lot of tricky problems, but I mean, like product developers find that stuff really exciting to be like, okay, how can we like solve this? But yeah, there's so much, like if you basically have cat, you can, with like sensors, you can basically figure out cat weight over time, like the weight of their deposits. So like the waste, whether it's pee or poo. also where the chips are located, you can see like litter box habits. So if a cat usually goes in one place all the time and they go somewhere else, that's kind of different. How much
Hmm.
water they're drinking, how much food or calories they're getting, toys, like how much calories they're burning if they're playing with this toy. So yeah, you can basically figure all that stuff out, like you said, indirectly through these different devices. But I don't know, I always think, like, for me, I'm always trying to figure out how to like make our business protected. And for a while that was like, okay, for product, I question that because it's really like, anybody can make any product. Like if you make a product that's good enough, it's like a lot of that stuff is based in China, like simple products, and they're really good at it. Like it's not like cheap made in China. It's like you can't even find somebody in the US to make stuff anymore. It's just that whole ecosystem is so dialed in China that like they're better at it. Like we can't find a product that's as good quality made in the US for some of the stuff that we're making. Because in China, it's like this factory is neighbors with like a chip supplier and their neighbors with a textile supplier. They just like call each other and like figure it out. Versus in the US, it's like, okay, we're gonna have to source these screws that are coming from China anyway. And so with like just a simple dumb product, I'm like, that doesn't feel super protectable because I don't feel like we're the best at like making that. And then with software, like a straight software business now with all the AI stuff that's happening, I'm like, that doesn't feel safe because it's like anybody could just like, there's not a huge moat anymore to making software. But and consumables, is it interesting? It's like maybe more of a brand thing because
Hmm.
it's like safety of like your pet actually using that. So, but like I feel like a lot of the Chinese companies are like stepping their game up. Like even yeah, like I go to China quite a bit, and I know they're like really, a lot of the factories there are working on overcoming the image of like that China has gotten, and they sort of agree that they deserve to have that reputation based on some of the stuff over the last like 20 or 30 years. But there's like a big change happening where a lot of Chinese people are now ordering from Chinese brands and like recognizing that they actually are like better quality. Um, but yeah, basically I feel like smart products are really interesting because it's actually really hard for anybody to duplicate that. Like there's a software component and a hardware component and the data component. And kind of if you get ahead with like the data side, nobody can really clone that. And so from a like business perspective, I'm like, that's really interesting because you're now safe. Like you've built this thing that isn't just some competitor can't just clone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, you get a lot of trust baked into that process, right? Like
Yeah.
that person's invested by getting the hardware, the software. My cat is on this regimen, and I'm also doing these consumables. So it's like that kind of lays into your moat, which is an intangible thing. But yeah, I think it's like a combination of that really kind of, you know, um, really kind of like deepens that competitive edge. But yeah, it's like that. It always comes back to, I think in a lot of ways, is the data, right? Because everything, you can look across a lot of categories, and products are either you're like very new and you've done something, like you've created a new category, or you've innovated in a certain category and no one's doing that, but then it's a matter of time, right? And so you got to like
Yeah.
get out ahead and do that. So everybody else's like first party data becomes your huge moat at this point.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
keeping those sticky users on subscription and taking that data to better serve them and just like cycle and drive that LTV up.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. We're still so early that there's like still not a lot of answers for a lot of these issues. So it is an exciting time, especially if you're a product developer. But yeah, and like for me, it's like I kind of my wife is like super allergic to cats, but I kind of wish I had a cat at this point just to
Yeah.
like feel like I have an arbitrage moment of just like
Yeah.
understanding. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
wow, this is
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
There's these cat foods now that they're making that basically so like a lot of what is it like, so they feed the chickens this like something, and then that goes into the food, and then when the cats eat that, it actually makes them like not have the allergens that people are typically allergic to. So there's some
Whoa,
cool stuff that's
really?
happening there. Yeah, I think that's like
Oh
one of the
wow,
big brands is working on that. So it's like,
I have to look into that.
yeah, yeah. So there's some cool stuff that's happening, but that's like a common one. Like everybody's allergic to cats. Like,
Dude, it's
yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like she walks into a space where a cat was there for like 5 minutes and she's like,
yeah,
like, poor
yeah,
thing. But
yeah,
that would be amazing. I've always, one of my friends growing up had a Persian cat, and I
yeah,
swear it was like a dog and cat body. And I was like,
yeah,
this is the coolest cat ever. They're so cool looking. And like, I don't know. I was like, I've always wanted a Persian. So if I can
yeah,
feed a Persian some chicken and it's
yeah.
not,
Perfect.
allergen
Yeah,
producing or dander, then like,
yeah. No,
sign me
cats
up.
are awesome. There's so many people who are like, yeah, I'm not a cat person, and then like they get a cat because like, their partner has a cat or whatever, and then like 6 months later, they're just like, oh, Mr. Jenkins, like they turn into like a little weird cat
Yeah,
person. Um, they're sweet. Like cats are awesome, and dogs are awesome. Like just in different ways, But
Totally.
cats have a very you like start to learn. Same thing with dogs, but I mean like I'm talking about like, yeah, cats specifically. Like you learn every like eye movement, like what it means. Like they have like such, and they're so unique. Like I was asking my partner, I'm like, what do you think? Like, how would you describe our cat, like in terms of like personality? And she's like, he's like very like opportunistic and like sort of like sneaky, but also like loving. And I'm like, 100%. Like, but then you talk to other people with cats and it's like, oh, this cat's like very gentle and sweet. Like they all have like totally different personalities, which is so cool to see. Like with
there's
my cat, there's this funny thing like where he would like go he would like go so like my girlfriend would go to bed and he would go have like time where he'd be like cuddling with her and she'd be like have this like, oh, like, he's tending to me, like he's just like there and like he loves me and I'm like his favorite kind of thing. And then she would like fall asleep and he would sort of like walk out and then hang out with me on the couch and like sort of lie on me. And then one night she came out and like, because she was like getting a glass of water or something. And she like looked and she saw him like on me right after he had been like hanging out with her. And she was like, Chiggity. And he kind of like looked up and like was so like he was caught and like ashamed. He
yeah,
sort of like ran over to her. And I'm like, it's so funny, like just like the different like habits they have.
yeah.
Dude, they're so
I
smart.
got a buddy. We did Thanksgiving over at their house. They got a dog and three cats.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Full house.
So one cat is the sweetest, most kind of laid back, chill vibes. Just comes up on your lap and just you just cuddle him. And the other one, that dude is like there's that's crazy. It's like it's the cats like you see in the videos where like they see the glass on the side of the table and the owner's like no and they're like boop they
Yeah.
just drop it. They're just like
Yeah.
no, I'm doing this in spite of you saying no. And then the dog just is like I don't know, they kind of like manhandle the dog a little bit. They just kind of boss him around, the three cats. And
Yeah.
he's just like happy to be around. He's just like running around happy. And like you said, they are a bit more intentional, it seems like, with
Yeah.
what they're doing, where he's just like, I just want to run. I just want to run into stuff.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to like lick shit and like
Yeah.
eat. He's
Yeah.
just like, yeah. So it's a little microcosm of the pet world in one apartment, which is cool to see. But like I said earlier, I've been I've had dogs since I mean pretty much my entire life. My mom she's also allergic to cats, so we weren't allowed to have cats growing up,
Hmm.
but always loved dogs. And now we've been kind of discussing maybe at some point to get a cat. But I know little about kind of what it takes to have a cat around, right? It's so very different than dogs. So I mean, I guess with regards to the company, what traditionally has been cat litter for I don't know for the decades up to maybe recently, where now I'm seeing all this innovation in the space. But traditionally, what has it been?
Yeah, so typical cat litter, like either somebody has an outdoor cat, but even then they usually have a litter box inside, and like traditionally it's just clay bentonite. So like sand basically, like is like what you would expect normally. And it's fine for most people. Like it's good at absorbing the smell. Like cats have really smelly pee. Like the ammonia in it is like what causes this like nasty cat smell. And the clay litters, or yeah, I'll just say clay litter, so it's like sand, is like really good at absorbing that. The downsides are that it like tracks like crazy, and this is like a hidden problem that people have, is like tracking is basically like when the cat, you go to the beach, you get sand on your feet, you
Yeah,
can never get it off.
yeah,
No matter how often you like shower, it's still everywhere. That's the same with like cats, is every time they go to the bathroom, you find like the sand all over your house, in your bed, whatever. And it's just kind of like something that people expect. It's like, yeah, it's annoying. And like my girlfriend would like follow him out with a vacuum and be like, getting his little paws and like cleaning it with like
yeah.
a vacuum and stuff. And so now and so that's like one downside. The other downside is like environmental. It's really bad. Like there's basically huge strip mines that they're like pulling this stuff out. It sits in landfills. So there's a lot of natural cat litters that have become more popular, and now there's like everything. Like you can get paper, walnut, corn, like all this different stuff. Where Tuft Paw's cat litter is like a huge game changer is on that tracking side. So like we're pellets instead of like sand kernels. And then there's kind of like, so there's other pellets too. Like there's sawdust, there's wood pellets that you can buy. But those still track, like there's still shavings that come off and sort of track around, and paper pellets. There's paper pellets, but they don't do anything in terms of odor absorption. With ours, it's like insanely absorbent. So it's pretty good on odor control, probably not as good as the sand, but like pretty good. So if the sand's like a 9 out of 10 on odor control, maybe we're like a 8. So not the
Okay.
best for odor control. But all the brands kind of range between like 5 to 10 on odor control. Almost every cat litter is like a 1 out of 10 on tracking. Like they're terrible. And then ours is like a 9 out of 10. Like it does not track. Like my girlfriend's like a neat freak. She doesn't vacuum anymore, like for the cat litter. So that's the main thing with ours that's like so much better, that we've really leaned into. And then also it disintegrates completely in water. So and like biodegradable, environmentally friendly, made from byproduct. But from a selfish standpoint, it's like I can just scoop it and flush it down the toilet, like no problem, no plumbing
Wow.
issues, fully disintegrates. So like instead of me having a nasty garbage bin beside the toilet that I'd have to carry out like, every couple days, it's like scoop, flush, done. So I think it's like, unless your cat has really stinky pee, like crazy stinky pee, it's like by far the best cat litter.
Okay. And then that took you around 2 years, right, in R&D,
Yeah.
and about $2 million spent. And you write on LinkedIn, that night with just 6 weeks of cash left, I sent a desperate email to Alex Ohanian, Reddit founder, at 11:43 p.m., a Hail Mary hoping he would invest. He replied in 2 minutes flat, "My daughter loves kitties. I'm in for 50K." So a few questions. One, where did you get that initial 2 million to invest in R&D? And then two, what did you write to Alex Ohanian to have him reply within 2 minutes flat and invest via email, which is pretty much unheard of? So yeah, would love to hear those two.
Yeah. So the R&D investment, like basically that's a combination of outside funds and just like business operations. So basically the company was not profitable until recently, but like all of those profits were basically continue going into product development, which is still happening now. Like we're funding the smart tech with like our current profits. But when you look at all the spend of like the product team that we have, that's kind of like what it amounts to. So yeah, with the cat litter, it's just like complicated in terms of you're doing, like I said, like real science stuff. Like we have to do like these tests, like in-house testing, lab testing. We're sourcing urine that can be used in test environments. So like I remember going through like, we bought bobcat pee, which you can buy online to like as pest control.
Really?
But then we realized like bobcat pee reacts differently than cat pee. So like we started sourcing real cat pee, like which, if you want to get into it, basically what you do is you get this special cat litter that they're like little mini marbles. So the cat pees and it like sinks to the bottom, and you like collect the pee, freeze it, and use it for testing. So like we feel like we're really like we don't know what we're doing, but we're trying to figure it out, and nobody else is really doing this stuff properly. Like people use for testing like they might use like synthetic stuff like ammonia chemicals, but we just found that doesn't actually correlate to what's happening in the real world. So there's lots of like activities, lots of trips around the world to like work with different factories, ingredients, formulations, sourcing ingredients. In terms of like the investment side, so we did like a little baby angel round in 2020 when we were first making our litter box. And I think that was like a couple $100K. And our main investor, so Andrew Wilkinson, he's like the founder of
Andrew,
Tiny. Yeah, so he was our first investor.
He's also Canadian.
Also Canadian, yeah. He's a good friend, and I remember I asked him being like, do you know anybody who'd be interested in investing? And he like, we're looking for 300K. And he was just like, yeah, I'll do the whole thing. Like I wasn't asking him to do it, but he's like, oh, this sounds sweet. Like he had started a failed cat company years ago, and he's like, let's see if you can like do it better. And he, after investing then, was like, oh, I've been talking to Alexis. You should talk to him. And so I talked to Alexis, got on a call, which was kind of cool and like surreal, just being like, it's just a regular call like this. And I'm like, oh, I like have used Reddit before. Like this is and he was like really cool and invested 25K, I think, on the first, like in that first round, but then was like very hard to get in touch with after that. So I basically never bothered him. But then when we were like desperate for that cash at that time and getting pushback from other investors, he was the one who kind of like stepped up and was like, yeah, I'll do it. I knew he wouldn't respond unless it was like the most direct, like one-liner.
Yeah.
So it was just like, hey, I need you. And he was like, I'm in. And as soon as he was in, I basically was able to reach out to all of our other investors and be like, hey, Alexis is in at this valuation. And they're all like, hey, I'm in, like sort of dominoes. So he was like critical at that point. And since then, it's funny with those certain types of people, you kind of recognize like best ways to communicate with them. And with him, it's like, only if I like once every 3 years, if I really need something and it's like a text or like a 1-sentence email, he'll respond. But otherwise it's like, he gets too many emails.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We'll have to do a little deeper dive on him, Roy, because he also just invested in a pet airline via Shark Tank. Retrieve Air, yeah. So I wonder how many other pet companies he's got going on.
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
One of our other investors is Guy Raz. So like,
oh wow,
this podcast.
You got a superstar lineup there.
I know. And I think he was it's just like one person intros you to the next. So Alexis introduced us to Guy.
Yeah.
Got on the phone with him or a video call with him, and he's like a huge pet guy. Like he's got dogs, cats, like multiple of each, other animals. Like they're just a huge pet family. And so he's been awesome, but he was like, just letting you know, like this doesn't mean you're not getting on the podcast. And I was like, oh, like, unless we get really big, like I wouldn't want to be.
What? So
just FYI.
I'm curious, like between like Andrew, Alexis, and Guy, like why were they so keen on not only Tuft and Paw but like the cat space, or did they even relay that to you? Or I'm just wondering, like what were they seeing as the vision as much as you were to make them want to, be a part of it?
Yeah, I think early days, like we've shifted quite a bit, and there's always been like a little bit of pushback on like, why don't you just keep doing what you're doing and what's working? So like in the early days, it was like we're selling furniture and the litter box sales are going up and up. And then we're like, we're gonna get into cat litter, and people are like, cat litter, like it's a crowded market. Like, what are you gonna do? And then like now cat litter is like way bigger for us than furniture. And now we're talking about smart products, and it's like, like, you don't, or food. People are like, you don't want to get into food. And we're kind of just like viewing ourselves as like a cat brand. There's a lot of pet brands, there's a lot of dog brands, but like we want to do everything for cat people. No plans to expand beyond cat, but within cat, there's like so many different categories.
Yeah.
And if people are already like loving you and buying you for like a certain product, there's like definitely a chance to be able to get easier buy-in for different categories. So like if we have like, 1 million cat contacts who are like obsessed with cats, like why not sell different types of cat stuff? But I think in the early days, what was attractive was like we just had a lot of times you invest in startups that are like, yeah, pre-revenue, like we have this idea that's kind of cool. With us, we just had legit revenue traction. So like every year it was like our sales are double what they were last year and 4 times what they were the year before. Like we basically doubled every year since like 2019, continuing.
Wow.
And so like when I go to raise money, like it's never been like more than that. It's never been less. It's just like consistently doubling year over year. So I think that's like, it's part network. Like Andrew knows me and he knew that I had been in ecom forever and like get obsessed with things. So he was more of like handshake, let's do it. And then I think Alexis is like, okay, Andrew's kind of like, this would be cool to co-invest. And also, okay, this is a real product. There's revenue. It's been around for 3 years. And then Guy, he's friends with Alexis. He wants to co-invest. So like a lot of it is like who you kind of know. But then since then we have like different arm's length VCs who are like, I just got in touch with Cold Outreach, which is like a grind, but lots of like relationship building over like a period of years. And then somebody might not invest now, and then like because they don't see the vision, and then 2 years later you reach out to them and they're like, holy shit, like it executed exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
it's 4 times as big. Okay, and now you're saying it'll be 4 times as big in 2 years. So we have like other VCs on our cap table now. Actually, Mars was like our most recent investment. So Mars Pet, they have like a pet arm, Digitalis Ventures, that does all pet stuff. And so they led the round where we raised 4 million. So that's kind of like, that was earlier this year.
Nice. Congrats.
And so, yeah, congrats on that. And is a lot of that with the idea of like kind of what you talked about, these 3 pillars, right? Mass market, consumables, or smart. Is a lot of that fundraising now the idea of like product innovation in these categories? Or is it kind of
It's more like the
operations?
litter. I'd say it's more the litter. Like everybody sees like the actual like growth, retention, and quality and traction with the cat litter. Like, so we launched in PetSmart earlier this year, going super well, launching in Petco in 2026. And so I think that's like the obvious thing that people are seeing and they're like, okay, that. But then I'm kind of like, there's also this other thing that we're doing. Like, you guys don't need to worry about this. Like, we're dealing with this in the background. We're still going to grow revenue. But that's like less of the pitch at this point because it feels like a little bit different. Like we don't have hard proof of that. But I think once people see the device and like people using it and like the potential, that's probably future rounds when we'd be like, hey, there's this tech component. But it's like feels a bit early now when we have this like 8-figure business that's like growing steady on the other side.
Yeah. And so with the smart stuff, what's like your rough ETA
Yeah.
on that?
So the smart, so basically we have a smart litter box that's like beta rollout. So like production ready devices by mid 2026. So we've been working on this for like a long time. Mid 2026, like to people might sound like a long time away, but like we're actually like producing them now and then rolling out early versions to like beta testers. And then it'll probably be full launch by like Q1 2027. And this has
Okay.
been a product that we started probably like 2 years ago, but it's like, okay, there's like a software component, there's the hardware component, but it's sweet. Like I've seen like the prototypes and I'm like, oh man, this is like a sick.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that.
Yeah.
One other question I had in regards of product. So litter's your breadwinner at the moment. What can you tell us about the people buying that? Like whether it's like a demographic, psychographic, like previous pain points, because I know you mentioned the tracking is like your big USP for that, or the ability to reduce tracking. But like who is that ICP that's coming to Tuft Paw for the litter?
I love like talking to customers still. So like back in the day we had a phone line, it just went to my cell. And then
Brave.
and then yeah, and then I would do, this is early days, but I would like love to like sort of understand more about people, and then dealing with customer care myself until it got so big. So like I had a really good pulse on it. And then as we've grown, obviously I'm like less involved in that. But there's been a couple of interactions I had. So like when we were going to pitch PetSmart in Phoenix, we sent samples. This is like a year ago. We sent samples to get there for this like big pitch meeting. And when I got there, it's like the samples hadn't arrived. And I'm like, oh, like this is so annoying because like this is like the big meeting. We need this. And so I was like, okay, I looked up like recent deliveries to customers in Phoenix and just like found one customer who had received one of our products who was staying near my hotel or who lived near my hotel. And so I just called that customer and I'm like, hey, like this is really random, but like I'm the founder of Tuft Paw. We're doing this big pitch at PetSmart and like I'm missing this product. Can you trade me your one bag for like 5? I'll send you 5 tomorrow, but I just need 1 now and I can come pick it up. And she's like, is this really great cat litter? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I love that shit. Like, yeah, come over. And so I went over to her house and she like invited me in, and we were just talking for a while. And like, yeah, it's really funny to like meet like a real customer. I think a lot of times we envision like this cool kind of like, our brand is like millennial, like we have these cool Brooklyn houses and like young couples. And then like you talk to the actual customers and it's like, no, this is like a retired woman, chain smoker, like just like 4 cats, like and then so then more recently I did like some customer calls, or I told my team directly, like I'm happy to I'll call 20 people and just like learn more about them. So I just did that last week. And yeah, I would say our customers like there's nothing that's like super obvious within a certain range, but I would say it's like generally very functionally driven, like people who are having that problem with the tracking. And that can range all types of different people. We're definitely leaning more towards like women than men, like probably 80, 70, 80% women. And then it's like probably average age is like 40. Lots of retirees. But then also lots of people who are like in their 30s who have like seen us on TikTok. And yeah, so there's nothing like that's super obvious. I have noticed though that it's like people are coming for a product for the issues. So like people with food, people who are buying us for food, they're like, oh, I was looking for something that was made in the US that had like high quality ingredients and that my cat, like it would help him stop throwing up as much. And I've never heard of your cat litter. And then people buying the cat litter, oh, I came because of the tracking issue. And I'm not even considering food because that's not a problem for us. So that kind of challenges my assumption of like, oh, we can sell everything to every cat person. Cause I'm like, okay, there are actually people kind of pick and choose like what they need to solve for.
And that's like so apparent in dog as well. Is like everybody's like, it's just fragmented in that sense. Like you have your trust built in for your toys, you have your trust built in for your gear, you have your trust built in for your food. and food can even differ from supplements,
Yeah.
greatly, even if the same food company makes a supplement. So it's
Yeah.
like it's tough to like get cross
All of it.
category, right?
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that might be like where, maybe I'm naive, where I'm like, there's a lot of cat litter brands that like don't have a food, or vice versa. And like there's reasons for that. Like we spend a ton of money on awareness for litter. It's kind of hard to just like transfer that trust over. But I don't know. I'm not willing to like give up on it at this point, but it's definitely something that I'm like, okay, this is actually going to be harder than I think, that people have.
yeah,
Yeah, their trusted brand for each product.
Yeah. I just want to do a follow up on PetSmart. So I think there was, I don't know, probably around COVID times when everyone was thinking that retail is dead and e-com is the only thing, only path forward, and now it seems to be shifting the other way, definitely for some products. What does it take, to create that partnership? Is it simply emailing whoever is responsible in that large, massive conglomerate, and then trying to get the meeting, selling them? Like, what is the process for someone who has a company now and they want to get in a Walmart or in a PetSmart or in any other of the big box stores?
Yeah. Yeah, so like a lot of those stores now are going through a transformation where they're like finding what's doing successful online. Like almost all the new brands that they're bringing in, they use a lot of like insight tools to see like what people are searching for, or, like, trends, like who has social followings, views on stuff like that, because those are huge indicators of how successful something's going to do in store. So for us, for example, like we've met with Walmart. We were down in Arkansas. We met with Target down in Minneapolis, and we don't feel like we're necessarily ready for those stores yet, because we're not like ready. We don't feel like we're ready online yet in terms of like all the awareness that we built. We're like tackling it sort of one store at a time. But yeah, like you need to kind of be successful online first, I would say, before doing anything. Like back in the day, a lot of people think it's like about getting on shelf. It's kind of like a bit of a cliche where it's like, it's not about getting on shelf. It's about like selling
Yeah.
through. There's so many brands that
Because if
get on
nobody
shelf.
knows you, you're just staying on the shelf.
They have pretty aggressive like sales like targets to sell through units, and people aren't just going to see it and decide to buy it. Like people need to be going to the store to go pick that thing up. Like I don't know, pet stores aren't bustling. You don't
yeah,
go into one, there's like crowds of people like all just like picking the only thing. There's like 20 options for cat litter. Why are they picking yours? So you need to it's if somebody could just tell a small brand like, yeah, I'll get you in PetSmart. We have a personal relationship and I'm a friend and I can get you in. It wouldn't be worth anything. It's kind of like you also need the awareness. It's like you need to be in PetSmart multiplied by your awareness. If either of those is zero, like you're not going to do well in retail. So if you get traction online, then getting into PetSmart's a lot easier. Like you actually get inbound from them on like being interested. For us, we actually ended up working through a broker like when we were really small, and every year we would meet with them and they're like, no, not this year, not this year. And then finally, like the third year we met with them, they're like, yeah, like we actually are interested in like bringing this in now that we're seeing the numbers. And they knew a lot more about us uh than we expected. Like they're like, yeah, we have all these like things, we're seeing like the purchase history, it looks like you had a really big month in like July, and we're like, how the hell? And
But you guys
so
got an insider?
yeah, they're kind
yeah.
of watching. So like if you're doing well online and social, that those are the brands they want to bring in. And same with Walmart and Target. Like they want these like D2C darlings to like bring in and make their stores cool and relevant.
Okay, so first make it online,
Yeah.
then translate that into retail.
Honestly, the trend is like it's just hard. Like it's why we focus so much on product. Like so we have 30 people on our team now, and like half of them are on the product team. And it's because I just don't know how to compete well on the other angles. Like I don't know how to be better at like marketing and sales. It's like way more, I don't know, like foundationally, we're just picking these hard ass products to make that are going to take like 3 years. And then we're like, if other people aren't willing to invest that time and risk in that, then that's what we're going to do. And then everything falls into place once you have a good product. So it's way harder and way simpler at the same time, where it's like there's no tricks or hacks I can like teach, but it's like if you sit down and do the work and grind to like make a sick product, it's the best time in the world, best time in history to have like a sick product, because the distribution part is so easy once you have a good product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a cool line to end on. This was a lot of fun. I think we have to dive more into cats in 2026. I think we've we've been focusing mostly on dogs, but all the data shows that cats are kind of the next big thing.
Yeah.
Even with single males, which I think is I forget what the stats were, but it's as high as it's been. So seems like cats are just gaining more and more popularity. So you seem like you're in a good place.
Yeah.
Jackson, thank you. This was awesome. Where can people find you? Where are you most active on social?
I'm not super active on social, but
Where are you least active?
where am I least active? Twitter,
Okay.
at Jackson C, or LinkedIn. People can find me, and I post there like occasionally with like major updates. And then Tuft and Paw, Tuft and Paw on all the social channels. TikTok is like kind of our biggest one.
Cool. All right, man. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for being here and talking to us.
Awesome. Thank you.